a carnivore lifestyle may be, for most people, the only thing they can do to finally, once and for all, put to bed and put out of their lives well, good morning, everybody. It's me, Mitch. Today I want to not only cook my breakfast, but I want to talk about a subject that I always talk about. Some have accused me of repeating this ad nauseum. And that's okay, because as much as I talk about this, it seems to be the least talked about and the most unthought about aspect of why a carnivore lifestyle may be, for most people, the only thing they can do to finally, once and for all, put to bed and put out of their lives their carbohydrate addiction. Yeah, I know, I said the A word again, and I'll keep saying it. And the reason I'll keep saying it is 75 years of trial and error, failing to end the stupid, ongoing, diet sabotaging effects of one of the strongest chemical addictions that the human race has. Not only one of the strongest, but the oldest, most ancient addiction that we have. I've talked about the reasons why we have this addiction. Sometimes I think people just don't want to think that hard about it, but it is our main nemesis. We all diet. We diet and we diet and we diet. A $100+ billion a year diet industry with dietary pills and supplements and programs and Weight Watchers and MetaFast and Nutrisystem and all of many weight loss centers, and billions and billions and billions of dollars spent. And every one of those things has a recidivism rate in the high 90%, which means people who do it, spend all that money, have failed, and they have failed, and they don't even know why. And I'm trying to tell the world that I discovered why they fail. And it's so simple and obvious. But we don't think of things in those terms. We're subject to the propaganda. We want the easy way, the magic pill. We want to risk our future health taking Ozempic and Wegovy and things like that. We don't want to work hard. We want to be able to continue feeding our addiction and doing what they tell us will give us the results we want without actually having to make the one change that automatically makes that happen. And again, it took me 75 years. Well, maybe 65 years, because I think I maybe went on my first diet when I was 10 years old as a fat kid. Carbohydrate addiction, not food addiction. I don't believe food addiction is an accurate description. I think It's the carbohydrates. I've said this many times. I don't hear a whole lot about ribeye addiction or hamburger addiction or anything other than addiction to foods that contain carbohydrates. So there's low carb diets, and low carb diets they're great. They're great. And they help a little bit, but they don't cure our carbohydrate addiction. If anything, they make us focus on carbohydrates. Carbohydrates become the center point, become the center point of what we do. We're so busy. We're so busy figuring out how we can best feed our addiction with only 20 grams or 10 grams or however many grams of carbohydrate. And that leaves us wide open to all of the fraud and the propaganda and the bullshit of, well, total carbs versus net carbs. We tend to always try to figure out a way to use our carbs on something that feeds our addiction and our sweet tooth. Not broccoli. Most people don't want to use up their carb allotment on broccoli or cauliflower. They want to use their allotment up on making artificially sweetened treats, cakes and cookies and pies, pizza crust, things like that, that don't have a lot of carbs, but they think they're going to gain the satisfaction that they're addicted to by eating those things. And all that does is increase your cravings and your hunger for more and more of this stuff. And like any addiction, if you finally can get it through your head that you're a carb addict, accept it, embrace it. Tell the world, hi, I'm Mitch. I'm a carbaholic. Understand that any addiction can only be treated, never eliminated, but at least put into remission by one thing and one thing only, and that is complete and total abstinence. That's easier said than done, because how do you abstain from what it is that has got you so addicted when it's in your face every day, everywhere, and everybody's telling you how good it is for you? And the food companies are constantly figuring out more and more ways to make their advertisements more and more tempting to you, to visually trigger your addictions, where you don't hear in the discourse of society any talk from anywhere other than a few lunatics like me on YouTube about the fact that this is the problem. So you need to, or at least, I don't like to tell you what you need to do, but if you want to cure your carbohydrate addiction, I have found from my own experience and trial and error over a lifetime of fighting this battle until I gave up every single last gram of that drug I was addicted to, until I stopped allowing any reminders of that into my life, which meant drastic measures of eliminating virtually every carbohydrate from my house. And I have. There are no carbohydrates, zero in this freezer. There is only protein and fat. There are no carbohydrates in this pantry. There is nothing in here except fish, pork rinds, no carbohydrates. I could turn my house upside down, not find a single gram of carbohydrate. Sorry if your living situation is such that people with you are doing this in front of your face. They are spelling, in most cases, and assisting you in failing yet again. If they love you, you need to let them know that. It's the only thing that I've found that works for a carbohydrate addict. But you say, well, Mitch, that doesn't bother me. I can go to a store and not be triggered by all the junk food. I can watch my family members stuff ice cream and cookies and pizza down their throats, and it doesn't bother me. Well, good for you. You're not that much of a carbohydrate addict. How do I know this? Because I recognize the reality that many people are alcoholics. When they walk by a bar, even if they've been sober for 10 years, there's an irresistible pull drawing them in. When they watch other people drink, the cravings come on because they're addicted to alcohol, like I'm addicted to carbohydrates. It's the same mechanisms. How do I know? I am not an alcoholic. I have no cravings and never have for alcohol. It never happened to me. I am a non-alcoholic. Nothing bothers me. I can watch people drink from morning to night. I can spend my days in distilleries and breweries and have no desire to have a drink. Yet, wave a little sugar in front of my face, I'm in. I'm all in. We all have different kind of addictions. So just because maybe you are not that strong of a carbohydrate addict doesn't mean that 90% plus of the human beings roaming this planet are not. So my message is for those of you that recognize you're a carbohydrate addict. And I'm telling you that my advice, whether you take it or not, and my opinion, whether you agree with it or not, is the first step is the same as any addiction. You must admit to yourself and the world, I am an addict. Treating carbohydrate addiction is the same as treating alcoholism or drug addiction or anything else. You have to suffer some withdrawals. You have to abstain completely. You have to avoid those things that trigger you. Excuse me while I beat my eggs. Thank you. Now, I know that this may annoy or aggravate or rile up the feathers of so many of my good friends out there who are on keto, trying to do a keto diet, trying to hang on desperately to those last few grams of carbohydrates and think I'm crazy and don't want to hear my message. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. I'm sorry, but until I eliminated every last gram of carb, and it's been over 1 year and 9 months since I've eaten intentionally 1 gram of dietary carbohydrate that wasn't somehow a trace in meat or eggs. It has been that long. I don't miss them. Cravings are a thing of the past. I could care less now, but I know that if I ate 3 blueberries, all that work would be gone. And my addictions would come raging back, and I'd be back to square one, the same way an alcoholic who might have been sober for 10 years, a thimble full of alcohol can bring him crashing right back to downing a bottle and having to start all over again at day one of his recovery. It is that important. There are so many things you can do, so many things that you can do to make it easier on you as you get through the process of decarbing yourself, suffering through a week or two of the withdrawal symptoms. I've covered them in many, many videos, but the purpose of this video is just to say, as I've said before, recognize that the reason you're the age that you are, you've been trying all your life, you have never succeeded to put an end to the illnesses and the weight problems for any meaningful length of time, that the reason is because you have never, ever addressed your addiction and taken what I've discovered for me and what is working for so many people that have gone carnivore, and so many people who have finally taken that last step from keto to carnivore and have finally stopped watching all the videos on YouTube that tell you how to make those zero carb versions of those addictive foods like pizza crusts and mashed potatoes and things like that, that trigger your addiction, even though they contain no carbohydrates. How you need to just avoid all of that. Fall in love with bacon, eggs, beef, fish. You will find, believe it or not, the whole process of curing yourself a month or two tops. You'll convert your body to fat burning. You'll get all the nutrition you need. You'll be rewarded with the cravings going away because your body doesn't need anything it doesn't have anymore. After a year or two, the thought of eating any of that crap will disgust you like it does me now. And it'll be the easiest thing in the world because you're not being tortured daily, feeling deprived of all of those wonderful, satisfying, comfort type foods that you don't eat anymore. You will revel in the satisfaction you get from the foods that you eat. Real food. Foods that contain everything that we need to be healthy. You'll lose the weight. But even more important and better than losing the weight, you will feel better. Your brain will work better. You'll be in better shape. You'll want to exercise. I don't care how old you are. So take some advice from this 77-year-old fart here, will you? Give a little credibility to what I'm saying. Do the best thing in the world for yourself. What do you got to lose? Give it a month. Give it 2 months. Suffer through some of the adaptation discomfort. Nothing in life is worth having. It has to involve some sacrifice. But we're only talking a couple of weeks. You'll become fat adapted. Things will change. Forget the scale. Don't worry about the weight. That will take care of itself. Stop thinking about yourself as being on a diet. Start thinking about a new life, a new lifestyle, a new method of living. The closest thing that I can use, the closest word that I can use to describe what it's like is rebirth. It's like being reborn. Everything is better. I hope that my little lecture, a little bit of tough love, meant something to you. I hope you'll take the advice that I gave, and if you don't, that's okay too. I have nothing personal vested in your life or your health. I'm only trying to share what I think is the greatest discovery that I've ever found in my entire life. And that's a carnivore lifestyle. Take the rest of the day off and eat meat.